I hope everyone had a fantastic trading week this past week, and let's get right into this week's Forex Forecast. All right, starting this week's Forex Forecast off with the US dollar index. So looking at the weekly chart here of the DXY, it's a little bit difficult to tell what's going to take place because we don't really have a trend on the weekly chart. We are essentially just we are closer to demand than we are to supply, that is for sure. But we are essentially just somewhat floating around in the middle. That's why the weekly chart is difficult to predict what is going to be taking place. If you go over to the daily chart here, you can see, I would say objectively, the momentum is down. You definitely could argue that the momentum has been lost here as we have broken above this momentum line. But, the overall momentum is down on the daily chart. So according to that, I would think the dollar could continue to go down. We're definitely going to have to monitor what's taking place on the lower time frames first. If you go to the 4-hour chart, you can see clearly we had a very nice 4-hour downtrend here, and we recently broke the downward trend. And I wouldn't call this an upward trend just yet on the 4-hour chart. I really want to see some more price action up here first before I really call that an upward trend, just to play it safe, right? Because, the overall momentum is down on the daily chart. So this could just be a fake out. Look, if we push up and continue to push up to here, I think we should be looking for longs on day trading timeframes for sure on the dollar. But until then, I really, honestly, guys, it's very difficult to be predicting what's going to happen on the dollar here. But at the end of the day, the daily momentum is down. But at the end of the day, it's confusing, right? We don't really have a 4-hour trend yet. So the next thing I'm personally going to be looking for is what takes place on this 4-hour chart. Are we going to continue to push down and break this overall momentum that we just created? Or are we going to continue to push up and create that 4-hour uptrend, which could be a sign that, hey, maybe we're actually going to change the direction on the daily chart. So definitely going to be monitoring this 4-hour chart on the DXY. On to the forecast for the Euro US dollar. And if you guys are enjoying this video so far, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you're not subscribed yet. And looking at the daily chart here, we recently wicked right into this daily demand zone. And so far we have pushed out of it. Definitely not the most bullish sign yet. The overall momentum is definitely still down on the daily chart as far as this trading time goes. But for now, we have a daily demand zone in control. We definitely could see a move off of this daily demand zone. And honestly, if it breaks this demand zone, that is a very significant event in the euro, in my opinion, as far as the overall structure of what's going to take place. I personally think if we break this demand here, then in my opinion, we'll probably be going down and breaking this low, creating the overall daily downtrend, which would be a very, very bearish sign for the euro. So until this daily demand zone gets broken, I am bullish the euro. I think we definitely could react off of this demand to the upside. Now, the problem with it though, on the 1-hour chart, we haven't quite broken the downward trend. So we have a downward trend line here on the 1-hour chart. This trend line still essentially holding. Once we break this trend line, if we are left with 1-hour demand there, we could be looking for longs off of that zone. And I will have that zone for the members on my chart link. So that's what I'd be looking for as far as 1-hour confirmation goes on the euro. And look, I know some of you guys are probably bearish the euro. I would not be surprised if some of you weren't. And if you are bearish the euro, I really wouldn't even consider shorting until any one of these supply zones at 1.08 on the 4-hour chart or 1.096 on the 4-hour chart, a little bit up there as well. But me personally, I'm not bearish the euro because of that daily demand zone. If that daily demand zone breaks, then at that point, I would be pretty bearish the euro. So just wanted to also point out these supply zones for you bears out there for the euro. But in the meantime, as long as that daily demand zone remains in control and holding, I have to basically assume that the euro is going to be, somewhat strong, at least on the lower time frames. And we're going to have to monitor the 1-hour chart to see if we can break this downward trend line on the 1-hour chart. Alrighty, onto the forecast for gold. Well, as far as gold goes, we created a weekly uptrend, broke a high, made all-time highs on gold this past week, and immediately shot back down. A massive, massive drop down on gold. I'm not too surprised. I kind of honestly expected it to take place. Maybe not that big, but I did expect once we made the all-time highs that we would kind of start to fall down again. And let me know your opinions on gold. I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys think that this, that this weekly trend is the start of a new leg up in gold to push to all-time highs again? Or do you think this is all a massive fake out and we're going to just tank on gold and gold's useless? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. But as far as the gold goes, on the weekly chart, we have a weekly uptrend. Now, on the daily chart, something significant is taking place at the time of me recording this video. We have a daily upward trend line holding. It is still in theory holding. I don't call this removed just yet, but this is definitely not a good sign. If you want to trade a daily trend, this is definitely not what you want to see, where the price is breaking below this trend line on the daily chart. So what do we do here? Well, it is definitely difficult to predict what's going to take place. If we get another candle close below this trend line, I think we could push all the way back down to 1931, down to this daily demand again. And honestly, this demand was barely tested. You guys know, if you've been following my forecast for a while, we pointed out this trade a couple weeks ago. But if we do push down to this demand zone again, I think we could react off of it again, probably push a little bit lower than that price there and then rally out of it if we do break this trend line. So that's what I'm going to be viewing here on the daily chart. I'm going to be seeing if we can close below again. And as far as gold goes now, if you are bearish, which I mean, the problem is I'm not really seeing any good demand zones here to be looking for longs at. So if you are bearish, we have a couple supply zones here at 2024 on the 4-hour chart and 2076 that we could be looking for those counter trend short trades. That is counter trend though, guys. Remember that it's not the highest odd situation, but I always like to point out the situation for shorts as well, because I could see both sides, right? But in the meantime, as far as gold goes, we're going to have to monitor this daily chart. If we get another candle close below the trend line, that daily upward trend line not going to be holding at that point, and I think looking for shorts all the way down to 1931 is going to be the next thing that could take place on gold. So we're going to have to monitor this 4-hour chart. And look, if we start to break this 4-hour if we start to break this 4-hour supply zone here, leaving us with 4-hour demand, we could look for longs, right? Why? Well, because we have a weekly uptrend. So at any point, we could be looking for longs. But the problem with looking for longs now is we lost momentum. So what we want to do for longs now is essentially just wait for a supply zone to be removed. And if we have a 4-hour demand zone here, we could look for longs off of that zone there. I know it might sound a little confusing, but I'm just trying to give you guys both sides of the coin here on gold. On to the forecast for the USDJPY. So, I'll be honest with you guys, I'm surprised this weekly chart held. If you guys have been following me for the past couple weeks, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys. I was basically saying, I think we are going to basically blow right through this supply zone, especially as we contacted the highs here. But, to my surprise, we are essentially rallying down. So let's take a look at what happened here on the daily chart. You can see clearly, a loss of momentum here, not only breaking a few demand zones, but this upward trend line as well. And what that has left us with is essentially 3 daily supply levels here that we could be looking for shorts off of to the downside. Now, it is difficult to tell what's going to be taking place here on the USDJPY. Now, that's why this Sunday I will be doing some multiple sequence analysis where we are going to be using the 12-month, 6-month chart, the 3-month chart, and the monthly chart as well, using them, like I said, the multiple sequence analysis to predict, will these daily supply zones hold based on the multiple sequence analysis, or, is the multiple sequence analysis showing us that we are going to break the highs here on the USDJPY. So join us this Sunday for the multiple sequence analysis of the macro charts during the Sunday meeting for the Diamond members. Links are in the description down below. We also have our daily market breakdown videos, video lessons, and much, much more. So if you are a serious trader and you want to join us Sunday to discuss the higher time frames here to predict what is possibly going to happen here on a lot of these pairs, join us on Sunday. Links in the description down below. So as far as the daily chart goes here on the yen, I like these supply zones for shorts. I probably would ignore that one in the middle. I do like this one and this one. But as far as the USD yen goes, definitely some bearish signs on the 4-hour chart. We have a pretty consistent 4-hour downtrend here. Any pullback up to like the 146 area, we could potentially look for shorts at. Not a fan of the location at the trend line because it might be over here. We could look for confirmation here, but at the end of the day, 4-hour downtrend on the USDJPY, we definitely want to be favoring day trading shorts. But remember, since we have back to the daily chart, since we have some decent supply zones here, we definitely could see some strength on the USD yen as we pull back up to those supply zones. But remember, that strength could be cut off short by these daily supply zones. So if we start to rally up here on the USD yen, be very, very careful and definitely have these daily zones on your chart. All right, on to the GBP USD. This is a very, very simple chart. I love simple charts like this. We have a daily demand zone here. Now, I will say this demand zone is definitely not fantastic. It's certainly not a zone where I'm like super eager to get in long at this zone. I think it's mid quality. It's really not amazing, but it is a higher time frame zone. It is a daily zone that we have in control here. So what that means is we could essentially rally up. So what I'm going to be looking for here on the pound simply is this, a breakout of this trend line. So basically we're going to be waiting for that trend line to be removed, and if we have a 1 hour zone here, that is our 1 hour confirmation trade. And a lot of you guys don't know what confirmation trading is. I have a few tips, videos on that in my trading tips playlist here on YouTube that you can get familiar with confirmation is. But this is essentially what we are going to be looking for on the 1 hour chart to get that long trade on the GBPUSD as we come off of that daily area of demand. And look, if we break this demand zone like this, similar to the euro, then I think we could be headed back down to there, and then we could switch to shorts. But in the meantime, with this daily demand zone in control, we definitely want to favor longs. We just need to wait for that 1 hour confirmation to prove to us that we are going to continue up and give us that entry on the 1 hour chart. Alrighty, on to the USDCAD, the country I am from, Canada. So on to the daily chart here on the USDCAD. We have a daily demand zone in control here. Not surprised to see a reaction off of it to the upside. So look, we could, in theory, get the move from demand to supply. That's a pretty large move. I think as we start to approach like the 1.36, the 1.37 area, I think we'll start to struggle and potentially go down here on the USDCAD. What I'm going to be monitoring now on the 4 hour chart, you can see we have a pretty consistent and clean 4 hour downward trend line here, as well as a supply zone at 1.36. If we can get a move like this, boom, a nice sharp move up, creating a demand zone that's clean, we could definitely be looking for longs at that demand zone. And this would essentially be a 4 hour confirmation coming off of that daily zone. So in the meantime, I don't really think shorting is going to be good. If you really wanted to short, you're like, oh, I'm really bearish the USDCAD for whatever reason. I'm not going to question it. That's fine. We have that 4 hour supply zone at 1.36. We could look for day trades in that supply zone because it's most likely going to be above that trend line. So we would rather be looking for a lower time frame confirmation trade off of that supply zone there on the 4 hour chart. But remember, the daily zone is in control. And what is stronger? Is a daily demand zone stronger than a 4 hour supply zone? Let me know in the comments down below. I want to know your thoughts on that, what you guys think. So that is the USDCAD. At the end of the day, we have that daily zone in control. If we break this daily zone, similar to the pound and to the euro, then I think we're going to be going much lower. So this, I think this next week is really going to be a good test, as a lot of these pairs are inside of daily zones, and we need to see if those zones are going to hold or if they are going to break. On to the forecast for the Aussie US dollar. So this daily supply has so far held on the Aussie US dollar. We talked about this supply zone last week. Also right around this downward trend line on the daily chart as well. So just want to say, if we do break out of this daily chart like this, that is definitely a very significant bullish sign in the Aussie. So just want to point that out. If that does take place, definitely a bullish sign for us swing traders. As far as trading the Aussie goes now, it's definitely kind of confusing what to do. If you are bearish and you want to trade at that daily supply zone, I get it. We have a 1 hour supply zone confirmation up here at 0.6645. We could see a move off that 1 hour supply zone. The problem with this supply zone, though, is that it is, price has moved so far away from the zone. We usually, typically with a confirmation, we want kind of that immediate pullback and then that push down, but it is still somewhat confirmation. And even up here, we have some supply and selling as well. So anywhere really around here, we could look for shorts here on the Aussie. And if you are bullish, if you do think, we're going to create a 1 hour uptrend here, if we do pull back down to 0.653, it is risky, but we have a 1 hour demand zone down here that was responsible for breaking supply and a downward trend line. We could see a move off of that 1 hour zone on the Aussie right there. And those are really the only two options that I personally see here on the Aussie US dollar. Let me know your thoughts. On to the USDCHF, the Swiss franc. On the weekly chart, we talked about this Last week, we broke this weekly demand zone. And that has actually left us with a weekly supply zone at 0.9898, sorry. So we could be, in fact, retracing up to the supply zone where we can then get a push off of to the downside. So you guys notice this pretty bullish week here in the USD Swiss. That could be the start of the move to the pullback up to that weekly supply zone. Remember, we do have that overall daily downward trend still on the daily chart on the USD Swiss. So that is pretty significant in my opinion. But just because we have a daily downtrend doesn't mean we don't get these counter trend moves like this. So we could kind of see that next leg up here on the USD Swiss. We're going to have to take a look at the lower time frames. And if you guys notice here on the 1 hour chart, we clearly are breaking out to the upside. I mean, we had demand zones being formed and respected multiple times. So in the meantime, what do we do here on the USD Swiss? You can notice we are currently reacting off of this 1 hour supply zone. Now, this supply has been tested multiple times from right here, once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, now a 5th time. So this has clearly been proven to be a very, very significant area of supply. So on the 1 hour chart, if you are bullish to USD Swiss, if we can get something like that to take place where we remove that demand or supply zone, leaving us a demand, we could definitely be looking for longs off of that 1 hour demand zone on the USD Swiss. And that's pretty much all I am seeing here. Remember, we have that daily downward trend line, so it is essentially risky and counter trend to be going in long. But if you are going to get in long, it's got to be on day trading timeframes only. And the thought process is we are retracing back up to weekly supply. All right, last but not least, we are on to crude oil. Where is crude oil headed? I want to know what you guys think. And to be honest with you guys, it is difficult to predict. I think we will probably react off of 66 demand zone again. We've seen so many moves off of it. It is a pretty decent support area. We definitely could see price pull back down to there. On the daily chart on oil, we have a very clean downward trend on the daily chart. Supply zone here, very, very poor quality. We are essentially just going to straight up ignore it. What I am looking for here on the on oil on the 4 hour chart, we have a 4 hour supply zone here at 71.76. We definitely could see a move off of that supply zone. If we break this supply zone, I think it's fair to say we will probably retrace up to this supply zone at 76.1 almost. So any one of these supply zones, in my opinion, on crude oil, we could be looking for shorts off of, especially on day trading time frames. With a 4 hour downtrend on oil here, shorts are definitely going to be preferred, especially with the downward trend on the daily chart. And, you know, like I said, profit margin down to, I don't know, I would say at least $66 a barrel would be my, you know, midterm profit target to the downside on crude oil. So as long as we have these 4 hour and 1 hour downtrends in play, we definitely want to be favoring shorts here on crude oil. And if you guys want to watch the full length forecast with all the other markets, make sure to subscribe to the channel membership to get access.